Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to It's Rainmaking Time. This is Kim Greenhouse. It gives me great pleasure to welcome Cal Orey, veteran author of 25 years. She is the author of The Healing Power of Chocolate, The Healing Powers of Olive Oil, The Healing Powers of Vinegar, The Sky is Falling, a Global Warming Survival Guide, and The Man Who Predicts Earthquakes. The story of Jim Birkeland, maverick geologist, how his quake warnings can save lives. She's also the author of Doctor's Orders, What 101 Doctors Do to Stay Healthy, 202 Pet Peeves, Cats and Dogs Speak Out on Pesky Human Behavior, Just Cook It, Epilepsy, The Essential Guide to Natural Pet Care, Cancer, The Essential Guide to Natural Pet Care, and many more. She is also an intuitive. She is extremely articulate, and she has some very interesting and important information to tell us today on Friday, March 18th, about what's happening with earthquakes and any earthquake predictions that have been made by other people. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Cal Orey to It's Rainmaking Time. Good morning.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. Glad to have you here. What an interesting author you are. You write about so many different topics. It's hard to put you in a box, isn't it?
That's true. Very versatile. I started off as a magazine journalist, and then I finally moved into books back in 2000. And listening to those titles was something else. A lot of drama is happening around the world, as everybody knows. And I have a website for an earthquake forum website. And right now, a lot of our posters are a little bit all shook up from what's happening because we're coming into a supermoon on the 19th, where the moon gets very close to the Earth, closer than it has for many, many years. And a lot of people, experts and sensitives, believe that a lot of more Earth changes are going to occur coming this Saturday.
First of all, I want to just clarify two things. When one introduces you and refers to you as an intuitive and a sensitive, what do these terms mean?
It means that just like our animals, they're very sensitive to earth changes. It's like, in a way, I'm an animal like a cat or dog, that I have a fine-tuned sixth sense. I believe that all animals and all humans do have this, but not all of us apply it, or not all of us tune into it. Many animals, like you'll see one cat that reacts to an oncoming quake that can feel it coming and act out, and another cat will just sleep right through it. Same with people. Some people don't believe it, don't choose to believe it, that they have these powers where they can tune into Mother Nature or tune into their own body cues that give them signs that something's going to happen, whether it's an earthquake or a wildfire that is in the works. But other people can tune into it and be very connected and pay attention to the signs.
You've predicted a lot of earthquakes, and I know you have worked with Jim Birkeland before, and you come to your focuses very differently. Explain how you come to predicting the epicenter of earthquakes.
Well, first, Jim Birkeland is a geologist. He's a little bit intuitive, as I've noticed over the years. I've known him for 25 years. He's like my surrogate dad. He's taught me so much. But in the past 5-6 years, after I did write the book on The Man Who Predicts Earthquakes, I've come to believe that I'm more intuitive than he is, I believe. And I think he'll agree to that. I don't like the word psychic, but I am a phone psychic advisor now, and he knows that. And he and I, we've had 2 earthquake wagers for California, and we put a little bit of money on those, and I won both. It was for California, what was going to be the next 5.0 in California, and he insisted Southern California, and I said Northern. I won that, and I pinpointed the epicenter, offshore Northern California, and the second one was for the 6.0 in California. He stayed with Southern. I went with Northern. Again, I pinpointed the epicenter, Petrolia, and I nailed it. I just totally nailed it. And the difference between how we work, he works on seismic windows and lunar cycles and tides, which I totally agree with, and I use that as well. But what's different between us is that I can pinpoint an epicenter because I'm an intuitive. For example, I'll get body cues. I'll get anxious, or my animals will act out. If it's a quake that's somewhat nearby from the Bay Area to Lake Tahoe where I live, Jim Berkland, he does have sometimes he'll get body cues too, but not as much as I do, and he doesn't use that. He's a scientist. I'm just as sensitive. I'm very sensitive to the earth changes, and again, because of my psychic ability, that gives me the opportunity to look at the USGS map, or just get images in my mind, or even words, like with the first Japan quake, the 7.2 that started all this.
You predicted that?
I sure did. I did. On February 27th, I went on the earthquake epicenter forum site that I have, and I said that a 7.0 plus would happen between February 27th and March 12th. I said that I was basing it on the aggressive swarm. It just looked odd to me. The fact that Japan had not had a significant quake for some time. It did last year, a 7.0 with a tsunami, but, it's a very, very shaky country, as we all know, because it's in the Pacific Ring of Fire. And I had a strong gut instinct. I couldn't get Japan out of my mind. I narrowed it down to the eastern Honshu region, because that's where the swarm was occurring. And I said that it would be nearby Tokyo, which it was, 230 miles away. And of course, as you see everything escalating, Tokyo is playing a role in all of this. And I gave it I believe I gave it a 65% probability. So it was an accurate hit, as we call it when we make a prediction, and it happens, it hits. But I never, I was on another radio show on January 3rd, and I did say, I did write some of my predictions and send it to the producer, and I did get credit for the tsunami, because I did say in those predictions that I felt in the year 2011 there would be 8.0s. Those are great quakes, 8.0 or higher, 8.0s plural, and tsunamis in the Pacific Ring of Fire. So that show host did give me credit for the New Zealand quake, which was only a 6.3, but because it was really, really, the destruction was just tremendous. 10,000 buildings collapsed because of the liquefaction like quicksand. So it was considered great destruction, and there was an 11-foot tsunami for the New Zealand quake. So he gave me credit for that. I don't really believe I deserve total credit for that, but he also did give me credit for the recent Japan quake because of the tsunami, and definitely in 23 feet. It was just it was horrific. We've all seen the footage on TV, and so I don't like taking credit for making predictions for great quakes, and usually I stay in the moderate quake range when I make predictions. I don't like to cause panic and chaos, and people, when they're affected, they really get taken into the whole hoopla of all of this. And so I like to play it down.
So with regard to Jim Berkland's window right now, seismic window that he's saying is from Saturday, tomorrow, through the 26th of March, are you in harmony with that? Are you picking up something different? Are you picking up a different window?
Right.
What can you share with us, Cal?
Partially yes and partially no. I'm mixed. I'm very mixed, and I woke up this morning and definitely had a more clear head about it. On the website, I do have saying experts and sensitives are saying that, the West Coast is next for the next significant quake, like a major quake, which would be a 7.0. Destructive but not killer. Yes, there could be deaths, but nothing like what we've seen in Japan. So we're all saying the West Coast. And we all have different theories. Like there's an author, Simon Winchester, he was on a lot of major TV stations saying that it's part of the Ring of Fire and we're next. It's like a square or a bell. And if you look at the, I think it was the Chile quake, New Zealand quake, Japan quake, and then you can just see that the West Coast is next if you kind of do a square in the Ring of Fire, and it makes sense. That's his theory, and so he believes that California is next as well. I did predict in my 2011 forecast that California definitely would get a significant quake. I pinpointed it to some regions that are known to have major quakes. Offshore Northern California, they did have a 7.2 back in 2005 in mid-June, which caused a ping pong effect where there was actually strong quakes in Southern California during the same time within a 3-day time period. So I did say offshore Northern California, San Francisco Bay Area, even the Tahoe region and Southern California, San Fernando Valley, San Bernardino. It's all, I said a significant quake could happen in one or more of these regions in 2011. I did not pinpoint it to a month or a day. But that was for an article I wrote for my Earth Changes column in January. Since then, I did start to think that maybe March and April, because they're known to be shaky months, the Great Quake in Alaska, West Coast, March 27th, 1964, a strong quake in Morgan Hill, south of the Bay Area, in 1984, which I was in, and that was in April 24th, 1984. And just kind of looking in the 1906 Great Quake in April 1906, April 18th, I started thinking maybe March and April are months that we are going to have a significant quake. So I hold on to that prediction, which isn't too different than Jim Birkeland. However, Jim Birkeland, he was on a major news channel the other day, and I do feel that the interviewer kind of put him in a corner. So, Jim, is this quake going to happen on the day of the supermoon, the full moon, which comes on Saturday? And I do believe, and now I just got a Google message saying that Jim Birkeland says that on the 19th, a quake's going to hit California. And so I've been getting emails from people, Callie, is the California quake coming Saturday? So people are starting to get into panic mode, thinking this geologist who has a good track record of predicting quakes, he did predict the World Series quake, 7.1, 1989, October 17th. So people are starting to get scared. So when I woke up this morning, it hit me. No, we are not getting a great quake or a major quake this coming Saturday. I just don't believe it's going to play out that way. Sure, we could get 3s and 4s, and I said that on my site this morning. We could get 3s and 4s on Saturday. We already have been. Yesterday we had 3s in the Pinnacles south of the Bay Area and 3s in the Geysers north of the Bay Area. And sometimes when this happens, I believe a stronger quake will hit the Bay Area. Seems like a pattern that I've picked up. But again, to say a 7.0 to hit this, in a 24-hour period on Saturday, I don't believe it'll happen. However, in defense of Jim Birkeland, his window is 8 days. So he does believe, because the tides are going to be very high because of the moon, other factors, that, yes, that the California quake, a noteworthy California quake, will happen in this period. And again, I kind of blame that anchor that sort of narrowed him into a corner. Is it going to happen on 19th? Let's cut to the chase. What day is it going to happen? It's possible, but I did dish out an anti-prediction, and I do have 100% accuracy rate for my anti-predictions for these, people that make these quake predictions. And I said that no noteworthy quake in California will happen this Saturday. That's just how I feel.
You pick up anything else? For example, we have news today that some radiation has come into Riverside County, to San Bernardino County, and some parts of those areas.
And Sacramento.
Sacramento?
Yes, 100 miles away from me. Not fun. Yes, and it bothers me because, as we all know, people that have been following it in Japan, the radiation levels are also increasing. And of course, as a journalist, I know, and a lot of other people know, that the government hides things, such as the Japan government, but our government, they aren't angels either. For instance, examples, in the Man Who Predicts Earthquakes book, I discovered through Jim Birkeland and other experts I interviewed that the death count of the Great Quake in San Francisco was played down. For years and years, they said only 500 people died. Then they said 3,000 people died. Well, it turns out that finally they said 3,000. Well, now it's 5,000 plus. We'll never know. Some of the images after the Great Quake, the photos were doctored so people wouldn't have to pay insurance, fire insurance, because there was the quake and the Great Fire. Moving fast forward, as a journalist for Woman's World years back, I did an article on Agent Orange and how it affected the women that served in Vietnam. The government wouldn't take credit. These women that I interviewed, nurses, what have you, would tell me about their illnesses, and they believed that it was linked to the Agent Orange that they were exposed to, but the government said there was no hard-hitting proof that that's the case. Yesterday, I talked to a woman and her husband who served in Vietnam. He just passed 2 years ago from Agent Orange. He ended up having a blood type of cancer. It's just, today they say that the radiation levels are very, very, very small. So, okay, I can go with that, but who's to say it's not going to increase? I mean, they do not have control of these reactors. And on my site, I even predicted when this started with the nuclear plant in Japan that I knew that it was just going to go downhill. Some people know me as a gloom and doom girl, but I'm a realist, and they don't have it contained, and it doesn't look good. There's so much controversy out there, but they don't want to cause more panic and more chaos, but it doesn't look good, and I do believe there's probably going to be a meltdown, and then that's just going to mean more radiation. So if it's already hit the West Coast now, I don't even want to go there.
I know. It's funny. I can totally see both governments' positions, but here's where I have an issue. By playing it down and trying to control everybody and control our reactions, what they need to do is to give us dominion to do what we're called to do with the truth. A lot of people may just decide to pick up and leave. A lot of people would have ordered the proper iodine tablets to begin one part of the remedy.
Well, that's what they're doing, and I disagree with that now. I'm known as Nature Girl in the Healing Power series. It's all natural stuff, and I'm very sensitive, so I'm not about to go out and buy those pills because there are reactions to them. They can make you really sick, really, throw up, vomiting. They could even make you have hypothyroidism. I had a cat that lived to 18 that had that. It's a metabolic disorder when he was 16 to 18, and you have to take pills for the rest of your life to counteract your metabolism, and who wants to go there? And that is one side effect of the pill. Of course, when all this happened, I looked up the side effects of the pill because I thought about, okay.
You're talking about Iostat 131 or 134?
Yeah.
Right.
And I thought about taking it. I talked to Birkeland about, are you going to take the pills? No, and he said he would hit the salt, because it does have iodine on it. I talked to another visionary friend of mine who has a wonderful track record of accuracy. She said she may hit the seaweed because people eat seaweed, and that's more natural. Right now, I would not take the pills. I do not believe in taking the pills. I know that they're selling out.
They're gone. I mean, the government has banned them already. We can't even get them if we tried.
Right. But I write about this stuff all the time, and when the swine flu hit, I was writing about it and getting scared, and it did spread, and I knew it would come here, and it did. But it was a pandemic 6, as I predicted it would go to. But the thing is, sure, there were people that died. There were people that definitely got it, but I did not, and I did take precautions, washing my hands, staying clear of people, and living in a tourist town. You can imagine the writer, I have a great imagination. I'm a hypochondriac, even though I'm super healthy. I just, stayed clear of people. However, with radiation, it's a little bit different. You can't see it. You can't really trust the government, but you could buy one of those little kits and, walk around and see how high the radiation's getting. I don't know. It just, being a baby boomer, I've been around for, we're moving up to almost 60 years, and seeing the movie back in the 70s, Silkwood, I kept making literary references to that movie, and lo and behold, I see MSNBC and CNN doing the same thing, because, if you watch the movie, I'm sure you can rent it. It overlaps sort of what's happening right now. You know, it just, I don't know. It's a scary world out there right now. It really, really is. It's funny. I had a very vivid dream. Sensitives have dreams a lot of time, and I had a very, very vivid dream this morning where it was great. It was very vivid. Where I met somebody. It was like at a coffee shop, and they had this. They had this thing where they could, like a time capsule, where you could choose any year you want to go to, and they could put you there. And I chose 1969. And how funny is that? Thinking it would be a time of calm, but you know, it was the Vietnam War and protest and anti-government. And you know, I come from that era, and I just think it's funny that I went back to that time. Maybe there is a link because there's so much protest right now. And as a sensitive and an intuitive, I'm not saying that everyone isn't sensitive to what's going on, but a lot of people choose to deny it or, you know, whatever, you know, what can I do about it? But sensitives and intuitives, they're more connected to it. And so we're more, it's more upsetting to us. You know, we're really in tune to it, just like some animals, when they can sense oncoming quakes, they'll really act out. Like my dogs, when we've had quakes up here before they happen, you know, they'll pace, and they're really mellow dogs for Brittany's, but they'll pace before an earthquake. My cat will be seismically sensitive. He'll be very, very vocal and vocalize. He'll want to get outside. He's an indoor-only cat. So sensitive, human sensitives kind of act out like animals. You know, we'll get lots of different, psychological and physical symptoms. So right now it's not a fun time, but I have to say that I am being fairly calm and centered for me, which is good.
I'm going to just switch over here for a minute because really we know that when the radiation began, most of us were told, don't worry, it's not coming to the USA. You only have to be within 12 miles. They told the Japanese people that. Then they told them, oh, no, you can be within 20 miles. And then the American government said, oh, no, you should be within 50 miles. So how could you have anybody within hundreds of miles if it's already in California?
I know. I knew this would happen. It reminds me of the classic novel and movie On the Beach. No, it wasn't an atomic bomb, but, you know, these people, it focused on, you had to read it in high school, and I've seen the movie. It focused on just one little group of people, and they were the surviving stragglers, and they were waiting it out before the radiation would hit them in Australia, I believe, and then they had, like, cyanide pills or some pills that would just, you know, kill them in a quick way when the radiation effects got too bad. In a way, I'm just getting images of that. I'm not saying California, we're all going to have radiation sickness and die, but we are facing a nuclear meltdown in Japan. These people do not have it contained. We don't know the truth. We don't know the scope of how bad it is. We're really at their mercy, and we're trying everything. This would make a great sci-fi disaster film. I mean, it's playing out like that. And, you know, with a master's in English creative writing, you can imagine where my mind's going. But, you know, all my predictions are coming true. I mean, when the nuclear reactors came into play last week, I believe, on the site, I said, it's going to get worse. I know it is. And I see this is going into a meltdown. And some of the posters said, no, be optimistic, blah, blah, but, and that's where we're headed right now. And again, if we do have a meltdown, if it's already hit the West Coast, yeah, I mean, you don't have to be a scientist to say that we will get more radiation. But let's put it in perspective. We are 6,000 miles away. So, I don't know, Birkeland told me the other night, we talked a long time on the phone, you know, if we all survived here, you know, of the bombing of Pearl Harbor, it couldn't be really any worse than that, could it?
I don't think so.
I don't know, maybe that's a rhetorical question, but, you know, I don't plan on leaving Tahoe today. I did flee the Angora fire, a wildfire, here back in 2007 because as a journalist, I covered the firestorm in Oakland, the Bay Area, and that was really scary. If you've ever been in a firestorm, you want to flee, and people did lose their lives because they couldn't leave. They were trapped on this one narrow road. They couldn't get down, and the fire engines couldn't get up to put the burning houses, the flames out. So these people died trying to escape off the hill. They died in their cars. And, I had images of that, and I thought I did not want to be trapped on Highway 50, the only way out, with 2 dogs, a cat, and a brother in denial in gridlock. So I paid for us to just get out of Dodge, when everything was, there was a lot of panic here already. It was bad. But, on my street, people were hosing down the rooftops. I was getting automated messages every 15 minutes how the fire's getting closer to me. It was just too much drama. And I finally convinced my brother, let's just go. We have nothing to lose. I'll pay for it. And all the hotels were booked because people had to, they had to evacuate their homes. So I just chose to go to a pet-friendly hotel that I was comfortable at in Reno. I'm not saying I thought the fire was going to spread to Reno 50 miles, but I just wanted to have the clear air and, no drama, and just, and I'm glad I did do that. It's not fun to have to leave your homes. It really isn't. And you're seeing this in Japan. My heart goes out to all these people that are homeless and that have to evacuate. It's nerve-wracking. You have another issue. But still,
they must be scared. They must be scared to death.
Oh,
seriously.
Yeah. It's just drama after drama. 9.0 superquake, and then the tsunami, and then, the nuclear reactor. It's just like, and then the snow. It's just one thing after another. So the Angora fire was, you can't even compare the two. But it's just, I'm talking about the evacuation. And am I going to evacuation today because of the radiation? No. But I am starting to think about Arizona, Idaho, I don't know, maybe relocation in the next couple of months. I don't know. I'm glad that I live very close to Nevada, the Nevada border, and not right on the coastline. For all issues, we have 2 nuclear reactors in California that are active.
Where are they?
There's 2 of them. There's one, San Luis Obispo, and that's kind of like Central California towards Southern California. And then we have one, I'm not sure if I could pronounce it, San Onofre. It's in between Los Angeles and San Diego, and they're right on the coast. And of course, last book signing I was at, I noticed they have the tsunami signs, in the coastal areas, just like they do in Northern California. So
it's obviously been strategically placed by the water, just like the ones in Japan have.
Well, they have 6. And I've heard, a lot of experts saying 6 in a row. That's just, and it's really a seismically active area. Japan has 5.0s every month. I don't know who was thinking or who wasn't thinking. It just, I'm just wondering how many, after the Indian Ocean quake tsunami in 2004 on December 26, which did happen on a full moon in respect to Jim Birkeland, there were scientists that knew that was going to happen one day. I'm wondering how many scientists knew that this could have been the outcome.
When you say scientists, do you mean scientists at a nuclear level or scientists having to do with geology and weather?
Probably both.
Okay.
Both, but definitely nuclear scientists. I'm wondering how many knew that it was really a grave mistake to have 6 reactors all lined up like dominoes. And, Tokyo, it's the largest city in the world. It's just a sitting duck. And they've had tsunamis before. They've had major quakes before. They have never had a great quake. Maybe back in way back, 1500s, I believe they've had. I'm not sure about the magnitude, But to my knowledge, this is the greatest quake they've ever had, and it is a great quake. Again, 8.0 plus. We're going in, and again, it was upgraded from 8.8 to 8.9, then to 9.0. Some people are even saying 9.1.
Wow.
But I mean, I'm sure there are experts that knew that this would happen. I'm sure there are. There had to be. But I never thought about it. I didn't even know they had nuclear reactors there, to be honest with you.
I didn't either.
If I didn't, there's a lot of people out there that didn't even know about it either.
So right now we are looking at a window for earthquakes, at least in this area of Southern California. Is that what you're saying, in Northern California?
California, if you look at the map right now, it looks pretty quiet. I just glanced at it on the USGS map. There's not any red squares on it at this moment. Let me read my little anti-prediction that I wrote on this site. It's Earthquake Epicenter. You Google www.earthquakeepicenterforum.com/index.php, and that'll take you to our site. And I entitled it Anti-Prediction for California Earthquake on March 19th. It's 2 short paragraphs. I'm glad I did this. It just, some of these emails I've been getting last night. Kelly, is it happening Saturday? It just bugged me. Okay, it's real short and sweet. Here we go. No, March 19th, day of supermoon, no significant quake for California. By that I mean something that's going to be hitting the news. Oh my God, California, 7.0, blah, blah. 100% probability, then that's for my anti-prediction. Probability, 100% chance, no significant quake for California. Notes, many people are claiming on this very day there will be a noteworthy quake in our Golden State, meaning March 19th. Been getting emails from people getting frightened. My anti-prediction record is 100% accurate. I only make these when I get strong vibes that a prediction will not happen. I'm not saying a quake will not happen this month or next month in California, and I have forecasted there is a good chance we will be next to have a major quake in the upcoming months, and possibly before the summer. But to pinpoint it to one 24-hour period, unless there is a spike in AWOL and pets via, I go to Tabby Tracker Fido Finder, and it, you can type in a zip code and you can see how many reports of lost and found dogs there are. And I do that for San Jose when I'm watching
Tabby Tracker and
Fido Finder.
I love it.
I know. And what you do, you can type in any zip code in the United States, and it could tell you how many reports of lost and found dogs and cats there are. And when these spike a lot, oftentimes this is a very good tool to show you that there may be an oncoming quake. And I do this on a regular basis when I think there's going to be a quake in the San Francisco Bay Area. So I said, unless there's a spike in these AWOL pets, or an aggressive earthquake swarm. So let's just say hypothetically, when we get off the phone today and tomorrow, today, Friday, if all of a sudden we get a lot of micro earthquakes like 1s, 2s in the Bay Area or offshore Northern California or Southern California, if we just get a swarm of them, all right, then I would have to say, gee, maybe Jim Berkland is right. Maybe other people are right, but in my opinion, it will not happen right on the day of the full moon tomorrow. Caveat, 3s and 4s, these are minor quakes, are certainly possible anywhere in California that day, tomorrow. Offshore Northern California, San Francisco Bay Area, Tahoe region, Southern California, since we are ranked the number 4 shaky state. So tomorrow, if we get a 4.0, I can hear Berkland, all right, I got my quake, but come on, a 4.0, give me a break. That's going to be so nothing. Yeah, I mean, we get 4.0s. It's very common in California. 3.0s, very common. And if it's a shallow quake, 1 mile, 2 mile, 3 miles, yeah, it'll be felt for sure. Even 2s can be felt without a doubt. But I'm not going to be worried if we have a 4.0. So I'm holding my ground, pun intended, that no major quake tomorrow. Now watch, a major quake will hit Tahoe I'll be freaking out and saying, he's the man.
Well,
and I'll be eating crow, and he'll probably make you pay him. But we did not make a bet on this one. I don't even think I'm going to tell him that I made an anti-prediction. But he is not the only one to say, that a quake's going to happen tomorrow. There are other people out there, I'm sure.
But are they using the same tools that he uses, having to do with the
supermoon? Yeah. If you just Google supermoon, you'll see that great earth changes can happen on that day for sure. So a lot of astrologers and sensitives, I'm sure if you go on to the other sites, and I'm not the only site, I'm not the only one, I'm sure there's other people saying that. And also when Jim Birkeland makes a prediction, people do listen. And he does have a good accuracy rate. He really, really does with his 8-day windows. And he has a newsletter, and each month he makes the same prediction where, a 7.0 is going to hit somewhere in the Ring of Fire. Often it does, because the Ring of Fire, that's where 80% of all the major great quakes happen. And it's a great area. It's a horseshoe in the Pacific Ocean, like a horseshoe. If you look at it as a horseshoe, the whole region, Japan, go all the way around to the Aleutian Islands, Alaska, all the way down California. I mean, it's in New Zealand. It's a huge area. So he says that every month there's going to be a 7.0 plus. Oregon and Washington is another one of his regions. Southern California, I believe it's greater Los Angeles within a 140-mile radius. And Mount Diablo, which he drove me up to once outside, that's in the East Bay of the Bay Area, and a 140-mile radius that a quake will happen. And he usually says a 3.5 to a 6.0 in those areas, in those three areas, and then a 7.0 plus in the Pacific Ring of Fire. And that's his theory, and he bases it again on the high tides, the lunar cycles, new moon, full moon each month, and of course, a lot of people like he believes the supermoon things can intensify. And then there is a thing also, there was a mass die-off of fish in Redondo Beach recently, and also in British Columbia. And that is one reason also why I kind of upped my West Coast prediction. Even though on the radio show January 3rd, I said California's next in line, those fish did not die off yet. We had the fish dying off over in in the southeast, in the Gulf, by the Arkansas swarm, the Guy swarm, in the New Madrid zone. So it's kind of strange. All of they have an earthquake swarm in Arkansas, and that's when all the fish were dying off and the birds were dropping out of the sky.
Right. And
then all of a sudden we have our mass fish die off. Now there was an earthquake. They called it the Guy swarm. It's still happening in Arkansas. It's near Guy. They call it the Guy swarm, and it did play out a 4.7. which is very strong in that region because the bedrock's different, and it was felt. That 4.7 on February 28th this year was reported felt by the USGS in 17 states. 17 states. So, the fish dying off, and we don't know why. A lot of people are thinking that, the West Coast could be in danger. But again, I guess my biggest gripe is just to narrow it down to 1 day or even to 8 days. Unless something else escalates, I'm just not going to buy it.
I have a question about the fact that there are so many earthquakes happening all over the world all the time in the ranges that you gave, the smaller ranges, 3.3, 4.5, etc. And so even though it has been said that you can't predict earthquakes, they can't be predicted from a geological perspective. And of course, Jim Birkeland says you can. And obviously, at the higher levels, you can predict them with more precision because we know that at the lower levels, they're going on all the time. The question is, can you predict the ones that are going to impact us? And that's the ones we're interested in, right?
Right. Now, when I interviewed some of the seismologists and scientists at the USGS for the Man Who Predicts Earthquakes book, they were nice to me. And basically they said they still stand by it. You can't predict earthquakes. And I said, but what about the animals? What about the animals? Like, they sensed the oncoming tsunami in the Indian Ocean quake in 2004. And he sort of gave credit to that, but not totally. And they said that animals are unreliable. Now, I do agree with that. I mean, my cat, like I said, he's got a good track record for predicting quakes here in Tahoe and in the Bay Area. The 5.6 October 30th in Alum Rock, San Jose, back in 2007. My cat definitely gave me a heads up, and I was on a lot of media because it was a total hit for me. And I give credit to my cat. And plus, a bear was in my front yard. I've never seen a bear in my front yard. And that day, it was 5 days before that 5.6, and a bear and a huge crowd of people are outside my front yard. And we just don't get bears right in our neighborhood near lake level. And I came out in front of the crowd. I said, "What's going on?" They go, "There's a bear." And I said, "You know what, people?" Because my prediction was in the works. I said, there is going to be an earthquake that will be felt either here in the Tahoe region or in the Bay Area in the next 5 days. Or I said in the next week. And sure enough, there was. And I just saw that as an anomaly.
Let me give you another example. When Jim talks about the fact that we all have magnetite in our pineal gland and all animals do.
Correct.
And therefore, if their magnetic field is being thrown
they
off.
Get disoriented, right.
So you are in harmony with that fact.
Exactly.
Okay.
And that's how I won that's how, in a way, I won the second wager with Jim Berkland for the California quake wager. I said it would happen in Northern California. We had to wait 3.5 years for a 6.0 to happen. We were having a drought of strong quakes. And on January 9th, like I said, January 9th, 2010, we had the 6.5 offshore Northern California Petrolia. What gave me a heads up about a week prior, or maybe 10 days prior, was the sea lions. There was a mass exodus, and they were heading up they left San Francisco Bay, and, by pier, one of the piers where there's a restaurant there. Everybody would just love to watch the sea lions. And they headed up to British Columbia, and that was a major heads up to me that we were going to have a quake somewhere in Northern California. So I knew that I was going to win that wager, and I gave credit to the sea lions. So this fish thing with the BC and down in Southern California, it definitely is a sign. And I've seen it pan out before. Again, I just want to reiterate, I'm going back to, and I really shouldn't blame Jim Berkland, because I believe the anchor that interviewed him, he tried to nail him to a day, and that is so difficult to do. It really is. But he kind of backed him up in a corner. So you're saying that this quake is going to happen on March 19th. And, that's not really fair, because, again, Jim Berkland's window is 8 days. So, there is a possibility. There really is a possibility that we could see a 6.0 happening in his window, March 19th to the 26th. But on the 19th, that's what I read earlier. That's why I gave my anti-prediction just for that day. Because we're all saying that March and April, a lot of us that are predicting that March and April are definitely shaky months from history. I believe history repeats itself. I use that as one of my tools. Certain areas that are known to have quakes, I go back to them. If there's a weird swarm happening, and then I get that gut instinct, I'll do a prediction. So, again, I'm not saying March and April we're not going to have a noteworthy quake. We definitely could. I'm just saying March 19th,
Don't panic.
Yeah, and that's what's bugging me, because I've gone there. I've gone there so many times, and it didn't happen. However, again, we had a swarm here in Tahoe, 2008, April 25th, the swarm ended up into a 5.0, and I felt it. I knew that night the quake was going to happen. I knew it. We had 4s, 2 4s the day prior when I was on radio, and the producer, the host, knew I was really amped. My animals were acting out so much for a week. It was over in Reno, the mogul sequence. They were getting shallow quakes, thousands. Scientists from all around the world were over in Reno. Even the mayor told us to expect the worst, get prepared. They didn't know what was causing it. They still don't. It was on an unknown fault. But we have 3 faults where I live, one right on the lake, 2 miles from my house at State Line. And so, of course, I was scared, because I thought, and the experts do that, it could trigger another quake over here. I live a block from the lake. that could cause a SAIS, like a tsunami. So I was on edge, and I was getting slammed with emails from people in Reno thinking I'm some sort of guru. Callie, what do I do? What do I do? People were leaving their homes. They couldn't handle the shallow quakes. Veterinarians were telling owners to put their companion animals on Benadryl to calm the animals. I'm telling you, the swarm was terrible. So that's what I was saying earlier. If an aggressive swarm happens in California, somewhere in the places I mentioned, after we hang up, I'll take back my anti-prediction, and I'll get on the bandwagon. But right now, I'm looking at the map as we speak. There is not one there's a couple little red squares down in Southern California, but there's nothing to look alarmed about. I don't have any bad vibes at all looking at it.
Let me ask you this. A lot of us are very concerned now. We're like, earthquakes, no problem. Radiation, we're concerned. Can you look into that intuitive part of you? And
like I said, with the radiation, yes, it's definitely going to escalate in Japan. I do believe that they're not going to be able to control it. I do believe that there is going to be a meltdown. They were talking about doing a Chernobyl action on it and just burying it with sand. That's great. I believe that there's going to be an explosion. I really do. And I'm not saying this to freak everybody out. I'm sure there's a lot of experts that agree with me. Today, they're downplaying it when you go at all to main sites, but they're saying that it's dire, it's grave. It's not working. The radiation is escalating. It's really hard to get in there. You've heard it on the news how, those 50 workers, they could only go in there in spurts of time. That one, I think I said earlier today on the show, that one expert, I interviewed him, actually, Professor Kaku. I interviewed him years ago, and he's a prolific author, and he writes about future. He was on the news yesterday saying it's like using squirt guns.
I saw that. It was really disturbing.
And I interviewed him, 20 years ago. He's fascinating, and he talked about everything that would happen from flat screen TVs to using our debit cards. And I wrote this up in many articles thinking he's cool, and from his book, but, a real interview too. He's cool, but flat screen TVs and no money? How weird is that? But look how that panned out. So I respect him, and he does have a PhD. I respect him totally. He calls it like it is. And again, a lot of our government doesn't even trust the Japanese government right now, so there's trust issues. I believe there's some cover-ups because where are all the people going to run to? Where are they going to go? They're already evacuating some, but they can't have a mass evacuation. There's no way. It would just... You've seen this in movies. When there's chaos and panic, it's worse. That can kill too. And if you get everyone on freeways and airports, you just can't evacuate everyone. And remember, as I said earlier, Tokyo is the biggest city in the world. So, am I scared? Yes. Be prepared? Yes. As I told my brother last night, he lives in the house behind me, we're not even prepared for 3 days. I eat all fresh food. I don't like canned food.
I do too.
I know, and this is a problem. And so probably, I just got a new book deal. I'm so excited.
Congratulations on that new book deal on the Healing Power series.
Right, and this one's going to debut, the new one's coming out in October, and the one after that will be coming out right before 2012, December 21st, when the world ends. So, hey... If I'm a straggling survivor, I may be famous on another planet.
You're very funny.
Well,
you're very funny.
California girl. I mean, you've got it. There's really no humor in the situation.
I know.
But, panic doesn't help anybody. And it's so funny. As soon as I get off the phone, I'll call my brother. Bruce, we've got to go to Safeway. We've got to stock up. Oh, my God, the radiation. Ah! And I'll be buying seaweed at the, do that. Start eating seaweed. I'll be buying because it has iodine in it. I'll be buying seaweed at our natural health food store. I don't know. You have to take a fatalistic approach, If your time's up, your time's up. I could walk outside after this call, and one of those towering pine trees that surround me that I love could fall on me, and I could die. You know,
Yes, true.
If it's our time, it's our time. I'm a psychic advisor. Yes, I'm a phone psychic. And as I tell so many of my callers, you cannot control people's behavior. Like, if your mate's going to leave you or if they're cheating, you can't control it. But you can control your own behavior on the way you react to it. And that's the same thing with this. You cannot control earthquakes. We're going to have earthquakes every day. We can't even control the radiation. It's beyond us. But you can control how you react to it. So you prepare the best that you can. And I'm not saying try and get the pills. You say you can't even get them now anyway. But, you stay healthy. You definitely stock your pantry. You definitely, like we had a power outage in December here, you have to be prepared for that. Your first aid kit, you have to have, all your ducks in a row. And I'm not saying, get your radioactive uniforms on, like some people probably are sitting in them right now. We've gone through a lot of scares, the anthrax scare.
Yes.
We've gone through the swine flu scare. We've gone through the Y2K. We've survived all of these.
This is a little different, though, don't you feel? This is a little different.
It is, but again, as a boomer, I go back to when I was, I think, 10 or 11 years old with the Cuban Missile Crisis, 1962. And, we were going to be attacked with the atomic bomb. And I remember my parents at night, they sat us down. We had a family meeting, in a suburbia neighborhood like Dennis the Menace. And, 2 doors down, our neighbors had a bomb shelter in their backyard. And my parents told us that if the sirens go off, come home immediately. We were very close to getting nuked from an atomic bomb, but we survived that. And I believe, we're going to get through this. This too shall pass.
Indeed.
I didn't think I was going to get another book deal in the recession recovery. But, I did. And it just, I don't know. I'm a survivor, and, I'm a hippie girl. In my 20s, I hitchhiked cross country alone with my dog. Bad things happened. I was raped. Bad things happened, but I survived. You just go on. Things pass. And I do believe in my heart, and as an intuitive, as a psychic, I do believe that California and the United States is going to be okay. But I do believe that it's going to get worse before it gets better. And there's going to be a lot of rough patches. Fasten your seatbelts. These are in my 2011 forecast article for Oracle 2020 magazine. It's online. I do an Earth Changes column every month, and I said that 2011 would have more Earth changes. It would be more turbulent than 2010. And if you flash back to 2010 with the Haiti quake, with the Chile quake 8.8, all the destruction in Haiti, if you flash back to all the things that we had to deal with, back then, and if this year is going to be even more catastrophic, you can imagine what we're up against. But I still believe that for the most part, we're going to be okay.
It's a pleasure to have you on. I really appreciate you taking your time today and clearing your day to talk to us.
Yeah, I'm going to go hoard at Safeway. All the food. It's panic time. Take care, people.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was Cal Orey from calorey.com, distinguished author, columnist, and intuitive. Thank you so much for joining us.